Alright guys, I wanted to show you something that I've been pretty excited about, and it's these Xiaomi Akara temperature and humidity sensors. These are very cheap. They're from China. I bought them on GearBest, which is kind of a equivalent to, I guess you could call it like a tech-centric Alibaba kind of thing. Um, it is a legit site. They do sell good stuff, but you know it's a little nerve wracking buying stuff from that site if you haven't done it before. You know, Amazon has kind of created a new standard for e-commerce where you know what you're getting, you know it's going to be good. Um, you click the button and you have it the next day. Well, with GearBest, there's a couple of trade-offs. One, on the positive side, the stuff is much cheaper than what you'll get, or it can be cheaper than what you'll get on Amazon. However, it's not always very clear what you're getting, and it's not always clear what you need. And then there's the currency conversion. You think you know what you're paying, and then there's the shipping time. Be prepared to wait. I've ordered a few things, this set of equipment, and then I've also bought a laser engraver from GearBest, and it takes a few weeks. So if you're in a pinch, don't go this route. But if you have time and you want to try these, this is the way to go. So what these do, each one of these is a temperature and humidity sensor, and there's an adhesive ring on the back. You can stick these to anything, you can put them anywhere, and they will record temperature and humidity and log it on your phone or your tablet. Um, and that's good for a lot of reasons. My specific use case for these, my beekeeping partner and I are going to use these in some new beehive materials, and we are going to see what has the best thermal characteristics. We're going to do standard wood and compare it to this new material, and we're going to track it over the course of 12 months and see what's the best. So what I needed something small, something wireless, something cheap, and something that connected to my phone. And they do have some other devices out there. I'll show a quick screenshot from Amazon. That you can get. There's some other great options. They're purpose built for exactly what I need. The ones you can get on Amazon are great. They check a lot of the boxes. They're small. They're wireless. They connect to your phone. The data is nearly instant. The only problem is they're not cheap. You have to pay about 150 bucks per sensor. So 150, times four. I would have been $600 in. Just to do this experiment that I'm trying to do. So that was the big turnoff. So I did some more digging and I found these. And what a lot of people use these for that I've seen are some use cases that come to mind. You can monitor your freezer. If you have a deep freeze that you don't check regularly, maybe once a week or once a month, and say you have a whole cow in there, you can set this to send you an alert if that freezer ever gets above a a set point, a temperature set point. So say that you know that at any time the temperature never goes above 20 degrees, even when the compressor cycles. You can set this to alarm you at 22 degrees, and you can go check it out. Maybe you have a problem with the freezer and you have time to fix it. Other things you can set this to, you can check and make sure it doesn't get too cold. So at our other property, we have a house that nobody lives in, but we have to make sure the pipes don't freeze. So you could have one of these send you an alert when it gets below 32 degrees, whenever you might have some pipes in the house that freeze, or 30 degrees or 20 degrees. And you can get an alert so you can go do something about it. Additionally, these will interface out of the box with with like outlets and thermostat control units. Well, these technically are like a thermostat control unit, but they make outlets as well that you can have a space heater plugged into. So if it got below 20, the space heater kicks on. That's what's really neat about these, is that unlike the $150 options you can get online, these are a part of a whole network of sensors that you can tie together for other things. One thing I didn't mention, the $150 sensors, they're all in one, all enclosed. All you need is the one sensor and it communicates back. These have to communicate through a gateway. That's good and bad. It's not good because it's one additional component, but what is good about it is that it lets you link multiple devices to this. So I could have this sensor turn on a heater in my attic if you wanted to. I could have this sensor alarm me if it gets too warm in my freezer. I could have this sensor, and I could have all these do separate things all throughout my house. And there's door openers, there's air conditioners, there's all kinds of stuff. There's a whole lot of things you can do. And did I mention this is like $11? So each one of these was like $11.99, $10.99, $11.99. The multi-mode hub was like $23, $28. It was less than $30. So I got all of this for less than $100, and that included shipping. I just had to wait a few weeks. So that was great. Lots of utility with this. And what's cool about this is I'm going to expand these a little bit too. They have some vibration sensors that I'm going to use to detect when we catch a swarm. It's a beekeeper thing. You put an empty box out and you lure wild swarms in with wax and lemongrass oil. And you don't really have a way to know if you have a swarm. You just have to check it manually. Well, with the vibration sensor, I think I'll be able to detect when we have caught a swarm. That way you can get there quick and rehome them. Anyway, so you can do that. They also have these devices like plant watering devices that detect moisture, which you could also tie into a watering irrigation system. Anyway, so now let's jump into, so that's some of the good things. Some of the bad things about this. Here's the box for the hub. Let me show you the instructions for the hub. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but it won't really matter because if you don't know Mandarin or Cantonese, you're just SOL. I had a really hard time getting that to connect. I tried for a couple hours the first day, got it really excited. Couldn't get it to link to the Mi Home app, which is the Xiaomi software. We're gonna wait for that train to go by. So I spent a couple hours trying to get that to connect the first day. No luck. Put it down. Told myself, come back the next day, you'll figure it out. Came back the next day. No luck. I was pissed. I was thinking I just wasted money, wasted time more than anything on something that I needed to have figured out before spring. And I did some deep research, and it was nothing provided by Xiaomi or Akara. I found a guy on a blog post that was half Chinese, half English, and he had like 15 bullet points for things that he had to figure out. And like the 11th bullet point was how to get this thing to connect. And it's probably written in here, and I just can't read it. But all you have to do, so if you're gonna try this, with it powered on, there's a button on the front, you have to rapidly press this like 10 times to unbind it. Once you do that, you'll be able to it'll connect to the device, or it'll connect to the app, which is what you're trying to do. Because then it's not just a device. I have all my phones connected to this. So that was one problem. Speaking of power on the unit, it is not really clear, I mentioned earlier, what you need. These are Aqara brand. This is Xiaomi brand. Akara has a multi-mode hub, and you don't know what connects with what. Now they all communicate on the Zigbee protocol, which I assumed meant that these would work with this, but I wasn't confident. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug in a little video of the exact model number and hub and the sensors, and I'll go ahead and put a link in the description so you can know you're getting exactly what I got. The only other thing about the power is some of the options you'll go through say, do you want the EU plug or the AU plug or the US plug? You know, we all have different receptacle formations. And so that was a kind of a confusing point. So as long as you get something with USB-C or whatever, then you can supply your own power and transformer. But just to kind of take the guesswork out of it, I will put the links down so you can see that. So now let's talk about the performance. I've kind of put these things through the ringer so far. I've been testing these for about a week, a little over a week since I've got them to work. I've put them in the freezer to see how they handle that. I've put them in front of a heater. I've left them out and I've set them all next to each other to see how their relative accuracy is. I've spread them out across the garage where I put all four, one closest to the wall, space them out closest to the garage door to see if there's a change. And I was really happy to see that there is a expected and accurate change from the door to the garage, or from the door to the wall, where we saw slightly colder, a little warmer, most warm near the insulated part of the house. So that gives me a good feeling that these work. When these sit still and idle for a couple days, their accuracy gets within 1/10 of each other. So this morning when I came out here, they were all reading like 14.8 or 14.9 degrees centigrade, which is great. I don't know, I can't speak to their absolute accuracy because I don't have a way to measure that other than just an old mercury thermometer, and I think these are probably more accurate than that. But for my intents and purposes, I don't necessarily need absolute accuracy. The relative accuracy is more important to me. So that's why I'm setting these out so I can kind of do a calibration and offset. So I'm going to leave these set up after this video. I'm going to leave them set up in the same place for about another week, probably inside a controlled environment, and I'll be able to plus or minus them all and bring them all to zero. That way for our experiments, we know we're getting a true reading and a true comparison. So that's been pretty good. I'm happy with that. Let me show you what the interface looks like. So here you see the Xiaomi Home App. Sorry about that. Let me just do a screen record of this. So I apologize because I know this is kind of an ugly way to do this, but for some reason when I screen record in this orientation, it chops it off in the video editing software. So what we're looking at here is the Xiaomi Home App, and you can see the gateway and the 4 temperature sensor devices. Now, I'm a little alarmed because there's a much larger variance in relative temperature between these 4 than I've seen thus far. You can see temperature 2 is much higher than the rest, and that is unusual, but this is the first time I've actually had them left in the house. So I don't know what that's about, but we won't dive into that too much. This is more about the interface and what the app looks like. So I select the temperature 3, and you can see here it pulls up the temperature, humidity data. It puts it on this nice graph, temperature in blue and humidity in purple. You can select it to go back to the week, and it's loading, still loading. Give it a second. So there it is. So you can see when I brought it into the house, which was just a couple days ago. So this was when it was in the garage. This is when I brought it into the house, and there's an immediate change in temperature from what it was seeing before and the month. Okay, so here is the whole month. And since I haven't been recording for a month, you don't see the whole thing. But you can pinch and zoom. And this is a sensor that I put in the freezer, so check this out. You can see how accurate this is. Oh, this is hard to do with one hand on the camera and one hand on the other phone here. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Fat finger for sure. So what you see here, those are the compressor cycles in my freezer. So that's how accurate it can be. I mean, that is really, really good data. So whether or not it's, like I said, absolutely accurate, I don't know. But it does give really good results. I just wish you could export it. All right, so what else is good about these and maybe what's not? So while I go over that, I'll talk to you guys for a few minutes. I am going to show you how some of the automation can work. I mentioned you can get them to control other devices. You can create rules and if-then statements for these. So I have a low temperature threshold on number 1, and I have a high temperature threshold on number 4. So I'm going to go ahead and run this in the freezer real quick, and we'll see how reactive it is. I think I have the low temperature set point to 12 degrees Celsius. So we're almost there. It's reading 14.7 degrees Celsius now. So I'm going to put this in the freezer. And we will see how long it takes before we get a notification. So what's good about these? The data that comes in is really nice. It's on a nice, good looking, colorful graph that's very easy to read. You can scale it by day, month, week, or month, and that's really handy. One of the things that I don't like about it though is that you can't export the data, not yet. Now I've read that there are some ways around that. There's something called Home Assistant, homeassistant.io, that can pull that data, read that data, and then you can export that into a CSV or Excel file, which is what I really need, but you can't do that with the system currently, not by itself. You have to do extra. So I'm probably just going to manually collect the data twice a day, which is going to be a kind of a pain in the butt, but it's still, oh, you see that? Just got the cold alert test. Cold alert, automation notification. So that's how quickly it can work. Now I know we didn't give that very long, or we didn't. It was only a 2.5 degree difference, so it won't take long. But you know, it is quick, it's responsive, and it works. Now let me heat up number 4 real quick, and we'll see how long this takes. And there's our heat alarm. So it works. It's awesome. It's good stuff. And that's pretty much it. Sensors are great. They're cheap. The hub Works great if you know Cantonese, or if you 10 time press that thing. We are going to continue to do more testing on these, but since I had trouble and since this whole experience was a little bit unpredictable, I wanted to make a quick video. That way, if you're thinking about ways you can use temperature sensors in your garage, in your basement, in your humidor, in your freezer, in your attic, in your beehive, in your doghouse, a doghouse with like an electric blanket or a heat lamp or a chicken coop, lots of cool applications. So these are great. I'm going to get a whole bunch more of these, and we're going to really torture test them, and we're going to see how long they last. So if you have any questions or any suggestions, please let me know. Thanks.